of your guys of your team. Okay. Hello and welcome to the Need for Speed The Run live chat. We have our executive producer, Jason DeLong here.
Hey everybody.
How you doing?
Good, how you doing, man?
I'm good. So as you guys saw, you just saw the new Buried Alive trailer. That's something that we just released a couple days ago. Jason, why don't you walk us a little bit through the trailer and talk about that level of the Independence Pass?
Sure, yeah. The Buried Alive trailer it does show, as Drew says, the Independence Pass level. Independence Pass is in the Colorado Rocky Mountains. It's about, I'd say, you're about halfway across the country at that point, at least as far as the run is concerned, and obviously the run being a story of the cross-country race from San Francisco to New York. The Independence Pass level is definitely one of our higher action levels. You know, we have a lot of incredible racing, as some of you saw with the Desert Hills level that we demoed not long ago. But this is meant to be sort of like more of a high action beat in the game. We wanted to really tell a very cinematic Hollywood story with this game and make people feel the highs and lows that go along with that. And for us, the Independence Pass was a great opportunity to inject a bit of danger into the race. The story of that level is actually that that road is closed for avalanche blasting, and no one's supposed to be on it. But unfortunately, a racer comes along and decides that he's going to take it as a shortcut, and Jack has no choice but to follow, and unfortunately they get caught right in the middle of the avalanche. So it's definitely one of our higher intensity, higher action levels. You can feel it, you can see it when you play it. Yeah, we're really happy with how it's turned out.
Cool. So with that, we're going to give you guys a quick demo of the level that we showed at the GamesCom press conference. So want to hit screen there?
All right, no pressure to Drew.
No pressure. No, this one's easy. All right, here we go.
All right, so as you can see, this is actually the NIS that I was talking about, where the idea here is that Jack's very lonely at this point. He's kind of all alone, and he's taking a turn that's put him on a road that's closed. And as you can see from his steely glaze, he's not sure if he should go or not. The nice thing about this level, especially that I like, is that it really does show off what we can achieve with the Frostbite engine, and the fact that we've gone to Frostbite, in order to tell the story of the run and to be able to recreate, so many amazing drives across the U.S. And for the first time, really, because in the past all we've done in Need for Speed is be inspired by these locations and then create a fictional county or a fictional city. But for the first time, you're actually going to get to race across real locations. So Drew's tearing off here in his BMW M3 GTS. And you can see the Audi R8 up in front of him in 75th place. And Jack's objective, obviously, first appears to be let's win the race, but as we'll soon find out, there's some other elements that come into play here. Nice thing about this track as well is you can see some of the track is a little bit more blue and icy versus the white snow. It does have the snow physics, and it's a little bit more slippery overall, but there's certain key areas of the track where it's even more so, and you can make a choice on the risk-reward to take that corner a little bit tighter and go over the ice and risk some loss of friction, or actually maintain a straighter line. I'm really happy where we've gotten to in terms of just creating an atmosphere as well here, in addition to obviously the big Hollywood things where you're seeing the big explosions and the avalanches come down. And the avalanche actually does affect the gameplay. You can actually get buried by the avalanche and not finish the race. It's one of the fail states that we have. But just the fact that you see the snow drifting off the mountain peaks in the distance, and the amount of detail, incredible detail and audio, the whole presentation is really really exciting about. So Drew's actually doing a pretty good job on the drive here. I don't know if you watched the EA press conference, but it's the best run he's ever done. And what a good time to do it. And it's over.
I don't know what happened there.
This is actually good. This is a good opportunity to talk a little bit about our rewind mechanic. So one of the things that we're doing in the game is that we didn't want to have it be necessarily an auto fail if you crash, or have it set you back a point that felt unfair. So we've actually got checkpoints throughout the race. And in the difficulty mode that Drew's playing at, you have 5 rewinds. Those can be user initiated if you choose that you maybe didn't take that corner quite as cleanly as you wanted to, and you want another crack at it. You can push the select button or the back button to go back and try it again at the last checkpoint and use one of your rewinds. Or if you crash, we use one of the rewinds there as well. So there is an amount of rewinds that you can use on any given track, and it is variable based on the difficulty level that you choose to play at. Another thing this level helps sell as well is if you look at what we've done so far in terms of what we've shown to the public, we've got the Chicago level that we showed at E3, which was obviously very action oriented. We've got the Desert Hills level, which is a very different experience both in terms of the environment and the race type that we do. And then we have this one, which is Colorado. It really starts to sell, one of the big things we're wanting to talk about here at GamesCom is just how epic this journey really is, and the fact that we've been able to put over 300 kilometers of track into the game. is unbelievable. It's more than 3 times you've seen in any previous Need for Speed, and it really allows us to sell that epic journey so that it's not just about visiting a couple cities across the U.S. and saying that that's what the run is. For us, the run is about the entire breadth of the country, which allowed us to start in San Francisco and in urban centers, and then make your way along the highways through the rolling hills and get into the deserts of Nevada and get into the forests of Colorado, and then into the Rocky Mountains like you see here, and then into the plains across the Midwest, and then back into another city. Really wanting to sell the scope of this journey and how big it is. And it's for those that have done it and have gone on this journey, it is definitely not boring. There's a huge variety of terrain, and we're happy that we've been able to replicate as much of it as we have in the run. So as you start to see some rocks starting to fall here, this is where the avalanche is getting very precarious, and definitely the most difficult bit of the level. Of course, we always save the most difficult bits for the end. But it's getting pretty rocky, if you pardon the horrible pun I just made. And Drew is near the end here. Let's see if he can survive the onslaught. Nicely done, Drew. And the final challenge. Can you make it to the tunnel on time? Nicely done. You're driving, Drew.
I crashed once.
Kind of like you know what you're doing.
And we're back. All right, so that was the Independence Pass level. Wanted to give you guys another sneak peek of that in case you missed the press conference. So we got a bunch of questions lined up, and more questions are coming in, so we're going to get through as many as we can in the next 20 minutes. So let's get right into it. And in no particular order, this first question is one that we knew would come right away. So where's the publish button here?
All right, there ends our live chat. Thanks everyone for tuning in. No, I'm just kidding.
So will there be free roam?
Will there be free roam?
No.
I can say, without being cagey, no, there will not be free roam in the run. However, the idea is that the run is made up of multiple things. The game itself is made up of multiple things. One of them, of course, is the story mode, the single-player career of the run. And that wants to be, replicating a Hollywood action movie. It's fairly scripted. It wants to be something that, we pace out the excitement level that we provide there. There are other modes that we're not talking about yet, which allow you to reuse the tracks in new ways. And you get to explore, obviously, and online is a third that we'll talk about at another date. There's no free roam. You can't just drop in and drive across 3,000 miles of the U.S. That would be, I wish I had the time to build that game.
But unfortunately,
we're a little busy. So, no free roam, but I think people will be pleased with the offerings that we got.
All right, next question is how many cars are there going to be in the game, and will there be SUVs?
So we're not talking specific numbers right now. I can tell you there's more than 50, less than 1,000. With really running the gamut in terms of the types of cars that we have in the game. You've seen in some of our trailers where we're highlighting a lot of the super high-end exotics. So we have the brand new Lamborghini Aventador, the new 2012 Porsche 911, which hasn't even been unveiled yet. You saw the Ford Shelby Super Snake GT500 at the
Lamborghini Aventador, which we have on the show floor here.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got a very broad spectrum. Import tuners from Japan, classic American muscle from the 60s.
Yeah.
You kind of can see it all in the trailers. The idea being that each car wants to have kind of a unique personality and is a special edition version of that car, if you will. Like, for example, you just saw what Drew drove there. That was not just the BMW M3, it was the GTS edition, and they're very rare, obviously, and much more powerful. So what we want to do is have a complement of cars in the game that felt that it represented car culture and represented all the fans out there of Need for Speed's past, but also given it its own personal flair. In terms of SUVs, I don't know if you've driven SUVs. They're not really as fast as Lamborghinis, so
you don't want to
really put them in there. You might see the bad guys in them once in a while, but definitely not something that we're interested in, at least not for the run.
Cool. Next question is pretty simple. Will there be split screen?
The great controversial racing question.
Yes.
No, there will not be split screen in the run. And for those that always say, wonder why, I will give you the definitive answer, at least from my perspective. For the run, at least, and for the game that we're trying to make, obviously we want to deliver the most sort of cinematic, high-action, high-quality experience that we can, and that means focusing on making that single-player campaign and our online, obviously, as great as it can be. Adding in a split-screen multiplayer from a technical perspective provides a lot of challenges in terms of having to draw this beautiful world twice. It all becomes much more expensive, and frame rate tends to get a lot slower, and you have to make compromises. And at the end of the day, it takes away the effort from creating this great single-player experience. I think it has a great place in racing games, and I hope we get a chance to do it again. But for the run, it's not a priority for us.
Cool. Next question is, when will the run be released?
Wonderful question. Thank you. Need for Speed, the run will be out on November 15th, 2011 in North America, November 17th in the UK, and November 18th in Europe.
Nice. Cool. I like this question particularly. Was it difficult coming up with the idea and the plot for the run?
Was it difficult? I wouldn't say it was difficult. I mean, I think we did a lot of exploration in pre-production and really wanted to make sure we had a believable story to tell. The concept of racing across the U.S. was one that stuck very, very quickly, and that's a compelling idea, and it's a very romantic idea in terms of, almost everyone in North America dreams of doing it at some point. But we wanted to have a reason behind it, and part of that was wanting to come up with a story that felt, human, that felt serious, that didn't feel forced, really. And I think we've done a really good job. We worked with a Hollywood writer-director named Alex DeRakoff on our script. We're not story-heavy in terms of having a 5-minute cutscene before every race that you do. It's definitely a lighter touch as far as the story is concerned. But, you're going to care about Jack. You're going to care about why he's doing what he's doing and how he's going to accomplish his goals.
All right. Next question is from someone who looks like English is not their second or third language, so I'm going to paraphrase here.
Okay.
They're basically asking about the damage model in the game, and will debris, like what we just saw, damage the cars in comparison to the huge stones.
Yeah, absolutely. We have we have a very believable damage model in the game, for a game, obviously. The idea is that the car can get damaged by obviously the impacts with the environment, with traffic cars, with other racers, with things that you see in the world. The avalanche level, we have levels of snow that are falling on the car. For the most part, that's meant to be fairly light touch snow. We have some sort of bigger snow clusters on the ground that you can punch through fairly quickly. As the rocks start to fall, you start to see damage on the hood and the car and so forth. But the biggest damage obviously comes from the collisions.
Yeah.
So when you have a big collision with a vehicle, and you see the great spark effects and the tumbling and the whole kind of treatment around a wreck. That's really kind of exciting and fun to watch, and then we usually set you back to your last checkpoint, and as I mentioned before, rewind you, the car's back to pristine condition because you don't want it to affect your handling, and then away you go.
Awesome. Next question is an interesting one. Is how is the handling in NFS The Run compared to Hot Pursuit?
It's different than Hot Pursuit. Hot Pursuit was definitely went more on the arcade side of things. The cars behaved in a way that you could very easily get an 800 horsepower supercar into a drift around a corner fairly easily, and that worked very well for that game, and it makes perfect sense. And for us, we wanted to obviously continue to reinforce that feeling of heroic driving, but we also wanted to give it a bit of a human edge, because that was part of the story that we wanted to tell with this game. Is we wanted what you see and do with Jack in our storytelling sequences then wants to translate into the driving in a believable way. So as far as the handling is concerned, I would say we're definitely not a simulation by any stretch of the imagination. We're definitely closer to Hot Pursuit, but not fully as arcade. So the idea being that a novice player or a familiar Need for Speed franchise player could pick up the game, understand the controls, it'll feel familiar, it'll feel good right away. But if you're one of those people that likes to shave hundreds of seconds off and really master those controls and execute a perfect drift around a corner in that 800 horsepower car, it's going to take a little bit of time. So I think we've got a nice kind of hybrid of arcade, with elements of simulation, but definitely not a sim racing.
Nice. Let's just queuing up some more questions here.
Sure. Yeah,
okay, so next question is, the run has camera views like driver's view, so basically what are the camera views in the game?
So asking, I guess, if the cockpit view, I guess is the question. So we don't have the cockpit view in the run. Primary reason being we want to make sure that the features that we develop and support, work with the game that we're making. And in a game like Shift that has just unbelievable cockpit view helmet cam feature, that makes perfect sense for that game because it's about the feeling of being a race car driver on a racetrack. For us, we're delivering an action racing cinematic experience, and we want the players to be able to see and experience the race and the environment that we're doing. So we don't have cockpit view. The best example I could be is the avalanche that Drew just played. If you were in cockpit cam, the roofline would have obscured half of the things that were happening, and I think the impact of what was happening probably would have been lost. So the idea is, we have the traditional third person, we have the bonnet or hood cam, and the bumper cam, like most Need for Speed said in the past.
Cool. I like this next question. Is what was the inspiration of moving from 100% driving to driving and having some out-of-car elements, so non-driving elements?
Yeah, for starters, I think we've been very clear about this, but Need for Speed is a racing game first and foremost, and the times that Jack does get out of the car is less than 10% of the game. But in the end, it was really in aid of wanting to tell a story. At Black Box in Vancouver, we've always done traditionally the narrative-based Need for Speed games, Most Wanted, Underground. They all had stories, but we have never been able to tell the story in a way that we really wanted to. So, in getting Jack out of the car from time to time, that really is only in aid of storytelling and wanting the player to not just put the controller down and watch a cutscene, but have them actually play the cutscene and feel that same danger and intensity and action that you feel when you're racing when you're out of the car. Again, it's a small part of the game. It forces us to do things that we wanted to do, such as car changes, for example. Like, why would Jack not just stay in his car for the entire race? Well, we introduce some story points that force him to get out of his car or wreck his car and have to think very quickly to find another car to get back in the race, because that's ultimately his motivation, is to get to New York as fast as he can. So that's the main reason behind it. It wasn't a decision where we sat down on day one and said, hey, let's get out of the car. It was really about what story do we want to tell and how do we do it.
Awesome. Next question is, do we have difficulty level options in the game? And, well, let's just stick with that one.
That's easy. The answer is yes. The run actually has 4 difficulty levels, from easy to impossible. We have one guy tuning impossible, and I challenge you all to beat him. The idea being that we want to provide a scripted experience that feels balanced to the player, but at the same time, there's people with all different skill levels. So easy mode is the AI is a little bit more forgiving. You have unlimited rewinds to use. Normal mode, which is our standard mode, obviously that we use, is you have 5 rewinds. The AI is the way we've tuned it. Harder. You can see where I'm going here. Yeah. Rewinds get a little bit less. AI gets a little harder, and then impossible. No rewinds and very difficult AI.
No rewinds. That'd be awesome. Next question. Can I use just one car throughout the entire race, or will I have it for the most part of it? I'd love to use the Aventador. We would all love to use the Aventador.
I would love to use the Aventador too. Yeah. That wouldn't be exactly fair to the other racers, no. The way we scripted the car select is such that, we, just like any great racing game, we don't want to give you the best car right out of the gate. We want you to sort of earn it and learn how to drive it, so you're not put behind the wheel of something that you can't handle too early. So we scripted the car select throughout the run in such a way that you can, there's certain cars that you select from at key moments in the race. That said, we do actually have a car select or a car swap mechanic that we'll talk about in more detail, where you can actually choose, if you really favor one car and you want to try it all the way through the run, there will be moments where we force you to change your car, but you can change it right back if you want to. And then obviously car select plays a bigger part in things like other modes that we may have in the game and online play as well.
All right. I like this next question. Is he says, in the trailers they've noticed that there's a preset path through the U.S. They were wondering, will there be more than one path to follow?
Not in terms of I could go north to Las Vegas or south to Houston. It's the idea is that we've created 300 kilometers of in-game track because we want to sell this concept of a west to east race from San Francisco to New York. So the path that you're on in terms of what point do you get to next is fairly linear. It's a point-to-point experience. It's not an open world. Like I said, I wish we could build the whole U.S. But within the tracks, obviously, there's going to be shortcut routes to find, and what Frostbite allows us to do is get a little bit more broader with the experience in terms of being able to break through a fence and maybe cut through a farmer's field and get you back to another shortcut. And so you will find some variety and kind of route pathfinding within the game, but not as such like let's go north or south. It's kind of you're always going east.
Cool. Next question is, how much time will it take to finish the story of the run?
How long do you want it to take? Really, at the end of the day, we're not talking about how long our career mode takes. The way I look at it is that we've got this story of Jack, and it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And there's 300 kilometers of track, or 3,000 miles in real world between San Francisco and New York. So that's going to take not an insignificant amount of time. But then there's also things like we have autolog in the game, so you can actually compare your times across the country against your friends, and you'll know when you're racing through Yosemite National Park how far ahead by the second or the hundredth of a second, how far ahead or behind you are from your friends. That's going to create an element of replayability. We're going to have other modes that we're going to talk about later. We're going to have online play. Really, there's games you can put 200 hours into if you want to, and hopefully you do. As far as how long will it take, to be discovered when you purchase it, but I think you're going to find you're going to be satisfied.
Awesome. I like this question too. What is your favorite city in the game and why? And I think that maybe we shouldn't restrict it to just cities. Maybe we could just talk about what's your different environment and why.
What's your favorite child? It's really hard to come up with that one. I think the nice thing about what we're doing with the run is it does provide an incredibly vast range of experience. So you start in San Francisco, which is really fun. It's like it's an urban center, but it's got these great jumps, and it's really kind of really cool. And then you get out on this open highway, which is all about just less about technical turns and more about just kind of straight driving and weaving in and out of traffic, which is super fun. And then you get into more of the technical challenges when you see sort of the Desert Hills track, where you start to see some more windier corners, ending up finally as you're working your way up the Colorado Rockies and back down again, really technical switchback tracks that go on for minutes and minutes of switchbacks and trying to race against racers around the corners. I honestly couldn't pick a single one that I'd say is my favorite. I think it's just finally, in the course of developing the game, a couple months ago was the first time we were able to really sit down and start in San Francisco and drive to New York. And I got to tell you, I was just so blown away with what the team back in Vancouver has created, and the fact that they can actually deliver on this promise of creating this cross-country race. And you really do feel it. You start in San Francisco and you feel it when you get to New York. It was epic.
Awesome. This is also a very interesting question from someone who's paying very close detail to everything, all the trailers that we've released. The speedometer that we've seen here in the trailers, will it be the same in the final version, or will it change like it did in Hot Pursuit?
Oh, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
So the way that they changed it in Hot Pursuit, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Criterion guys, I can ask them in a second, was based on the path that you were on. So if you were on the racer path or the cop path, that was where you saw the changes in the speedometer. For us, you're in the run, and we built the heads-up display in that regard, so you won't see a change in the speedometer from time to time. But that's a very technical question. Good job.
Yeah. All my questions on hold have been published here. Some very interesting questions.
I like challenging ones.
Yeah. All right. So this is again a second English as a third language. Are the street conditions different in snow, rain, dry, dirt, and whatnot? So maybe talk about a little bit about physics.
That's actually a really good question.
Yeah.
The idea is that as you're going across this cross-country race, the variety of terrain that you're going to experience obviously is epic. We also want to make sure that the experience is varied. So we have environmental effects, like we will have snow, we'll have rain, we'll have dirt shortcuts, we'll have dust storms in the desert, we'll have fog in San Francisco, and each one of those affects gameplay in a certain way. So one is obviously seeing the visibility be hampered by dust storms and stuff like that is one, but the actual physics of the road, it does change. If you play the two levels that we have on display here behind closed doors at GamesCom, one is the Desert Hills track, which is asphalt pavement that you're racing on. And when you get into the dirt shortcuts, it's a little more slippery.
Yeah.
And then when you get into the snow level in Independence Pass, it's a little more slippery because it's snow.
Way more slippery, so especially when you hit that ice.
Yeah, exactly. So we want to make sure that it's again believable, still fun, not punishing, but at the same time there is definitely some variability within that.
Okay, so here's a very straightforward question that we have to ask: will there be multiplayer in the run? So
I can confirm officially here today on EA.com, we will have multiplayer in the run. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Simple enough, yeah. Now I'm sorting through all the questions that are saying, what are the online modes? We cannot talk about the online modes.
Sorry, guys.
So,
stay tuned.
So we talked. I'm getting a lot of the same questions, so I apologize.
I can answer it in a different way. Would that make it interesting?
Oh, here's actually a really good question. Maybe you can answer it, maybe not. Why is Jack on the run?
Why is Jack on the run? Well, not to give too much of the story away, I want people to really experience it for the first time, but Jack is a character with a bit of a shady past. We don't know much about him at the beginning of the game, but we do know that he has crossed the wrong people, and as you'll see at the very beginning of the game, it's pretty obvious what they want to do to him. Jack's only way out really is to get the money that he owes to these less than ideal people, and the only way really to do that is to go into this race. It's a $25 million purse. A guy like that's not going to make money any other way, and there's no prize for second place. So that's his motivation.
All right. Can you manually change the weather and the time of day?
The user cannot manually change it. No, the idea obviously with the run is that we wanted to script this just like a Hollywood movie. We want you to feel a certain way at certain times, and weather and time of day is something that really helps us play with that. So that's what we're working with.
All right. So again, sorting through the questions that we have either already answered or have said that we're not going to answer.
Nice to see there's a lot though.
Yeah, there is a lot.
That's great.
Okay, so here's an interesting one. What is the new thing that you've brought to the game?
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot. So,
where do we start?
Yeah,
I mean, I'll start with what I think is the most important one, which is just the experience that you're getting. I mean, for the first time, in Need for Speed, you're going across real locations. We've always been inspired by these great drives, both in the U.S. and Europe, and sort of formulated them into our own fictional county or our fictional city, and the fact that, for the first time you're going to drive through real locations across the U.S. is exciting. More exciting when we talk about the scope of it and the scale and how, you really are traveling across just an immense variety of terrain from San Francisco to New York. And if you've ever done that drive or done even a part of it, you just know how much the world changes from section to section as you drive across the country. And the fact that we've been able to replicate that faithfully, I'm really proud of the team that they were able to pull that off. And I think people will be really quite staggered by the experience when they play it.
Awesome. We got two more questions, or time for two more questions before the Burnout Crash Q&A begins. So let's, here's one.
Cool.
How do you actually change the cars in the game? Is it like before each race you choose your car, like in Hot Pursuit, or is it going to be like story moments?
It's story moments, at least for the run. So it's obviously different with the different modes we have. Yeah. So the idea would be that in the run, Jack knows he's entered into the race. His first objective is to pick his car. Jack goes to his garage. He's got several cars to choose from, so there's a decision there about what car you want. And then at certain points in the game, we do force you out of the car. You saw at E3, Jack got T-boned in a race, was on foot for a second, had to steal a cop car to get out of the city. That car ended up on the train tracks and got wrecked. Now Jack's got to get back in the race. What's he going to do? Well, use your imagination, but Jack finds his way to something that has multiple cars to choose from and is on his way again. So we always wanted to weave the car select in a fictional way, in a believable way. But of course, when we have other game modes that we'll talk about later, including online, there is the similar car select mechanic before every event.
All right. Last question is, do we need Origin to get the run on PC?
No, you do not. Origin is obviously beneficial and will help us with some of the other things we want to do with PC, but the game will be available in store and via direct download as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for taking the time and coming and chat with us.
My pleasure.
Lots of good questions asked.
Glad to do it.
And good answers. And up next we have the Burnout Crash chat, so stay tuned. That'll be starting in about 3 to 5 minutes.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.